All right. Well, I have with us today the man, the myth, the legend, the devil himself, shall I say, Christian Van Horn. I can't thank you enough for being here with me. Yeah, there's the devilish laugh. I work with my. I'm currently on faculty at UMKC Conservatory and trying to get freshmen. I've got a freshman bass who's a music therapy major, but a fantastic guy, and trying to get him to find his full voice.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly doing things just like that. I'm like, you ever watch The Count from Sesame Street, like back in the day? Like,
That was a
so it
lot of
must.
it in the beginning, was just imitating, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. I mean, like the first sort of introduction to like what an operatic sound is for me was certainly just like, my teacher, showing me what that sound was like on a record or whatever. Well, no, not a CD. What am I? I'm trying to not to date myself too much. Um, but yeah, you
My
hear
teacher
it.
always spoke right on his voice. He was always like, he would speak to me like this, it was very resonant at all time. And I don't talk like that, but he would always stay right here. So he was constantly reiterating where that placement should be.
That's amazing. I didn't have that until I went to Indiana University for grad school. I had two teachers. I had one teacher that I studied with sort of during the year, and then he went off and did Middlebury College had like a German immersion program that he ran with his wife. But when he was gone over the summer, I studied with Giorgio Tozzi, and
Oh,
Tozzi,
Giorgio, come
yeah,
on.
he would.
He's talk
Hey,
like this.
hey,
Hello.
Christian, how you
Hey.
doing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great to see you,
He was
brother.
always locked in. He was like on perma warm.
I know, perma warm. That's amazing. Well, dude, let's talk for a second. You're currently um, doing the thing that we all can't wait to get back to doing. You're over in Paris right now,
Yeah.
singing Mephistopheles and Gounod's Faust. Yeah,
This was all last minute. I sat home for 10 months like everybody.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I got a phone call on Friday, and by Sunday I was on a plane. And after a week of quarantine, I was thrown into already in progress rehearsals. It's a cancellation gig.
Oh
Somebody
wow.
somebody didn't somebody didn't want to do it, and
Somebody didn't want to do it. Yeah, I don't know if that's the
yeah.
truth, but
But and then the first person that gets asked next is definitely going to say yes because they're available.
yeah, right. I think that we saw that with Palm Beach. I was just talking to Quinn Kelsey, who says hi,
Yeah,
by the way.
my man.
They were just able to do like what a triple bill of like Pagliacci, Magic
Could you
Flute,
believe
and
that cast? I mean,
well, I
I
mean,
mean, come
case in
on.
point, everyone's available, so it's like, yeah, let's just get whoever we want.
That is a prime example of carpetbagging, and I love it. Good for David Walker. Fuck it. Just
Yeah,
you know
right.
where
It's
everybody
like,
is. They want to work.
yeah, yeah, I know. It's kind of amazing what they were able to do, but
Yeah.
I think that we
It's
saw
tough to
the.
get that kind of crew in one
Oh,
spot at one time. I mean, almost impossible.
well, yeah, and no shade towards Palm Beach, but I mean, when has Palm Beach Opera ever had that kind of cast? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
they could have one. They could have one and then surround them by
right,
much
right,
much
right,
younger
right,
singers.
right.
But to have just an ace cast top to bottom,
Exactly, exactly. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. I think lots of we saw the Glimmerglass trailer recently that they're
yeah.
planning on building an outdoor theater. That's exciting.
I
So
heard that New York restaurants were opening to 50% soon. I think we're
wow,
on our way. I
wow,
don't I don't know. The fall might work. I mean, if the fall doesn't work, it'll be union issues. But
right.
I have a feeling, New York theaters are going to be open. It might not be capacity, but they're going to be open.
Yeah. Well, and then
We're
there's the
getting
flip
there.
side of the coin down where I live. Texas, I think this week has decided like, it doesn't exist. Everything's fine.
Oh, no, the whole world heard about Texas saying "fuck it."
It's like 2 million Texans have been vaccinated. I don't care if there's 27 million left. They're fine. Everyone's going to be
We're
fine.
good. Let's thin the herd. Let's thin the
Yeah,
herd. Call
yeah.
the herd.
It's unfortunate, but there are a large number of us who are still
Yeah.
being careful about it, and so
Yeah. Well,
you
be the
still see.
example, right?
At least
Be the
I
example.
live in a suburb of North Houston, and we see here all the time most everyone wearing masks. So
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
hasn't really been an issue in my neck of the woods,
Here in
which is
Paris, I
good.
call it the Parisian chin strap. Now they've all got the mask on, but it's down here because in France, it's French in that and and then there's 48 exceptions for each rule, just like French diction. One rule, 48 exceptions. And so if you have to wear a mask in public, except if you're smoking, drinking, talking, walking, bicycle riding, or just don't feel like it.
Yeah, especially the
And the
last one,
numbers here are
right?
going up. They don't have vaccines here like the States.
Oh
Like
wow.
the States has got vaccines. They don't have them here. It's not here. The people are nervous about it. Nobody's running out the door to get it or to provide it. And so
Wow.
the numbers here go up. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I
Every
was
day we're
very
threatened with another lockdown.
yeah, my God. I was very fortunate to get my first vaccine here a couple weeks ago, so I'm
Oh,
feeling
that's
hopeful.
right. Educator, you get one.
Well,
Nice.
no, no, just having a little extra pounds around the midsection. That was the main thing
Oh,
that I was able.
really?
Oh yeah, they're not doing the educators, but I think that if they call it a pre-existing health condition. I've never been happier to be a little what bear a chunk, you know.
How
But
do they
yeah.
calculate that? Is a BMI thing?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I think
I
if you
better
have a
check that out.
BMI of over 30, then they consider that
Oh,
to be a health risk. So it's
I will
like,
check that
check your
out when I get
BMI,
home.
brother. You might. I mean,
I'll put a couple rocks in my pocket. I'll get there.
exactly. Well,
I
it's
want it.
so.
I'm not scared of it at all. I want it. I want the whole
Oh
world to
yeah,
have it so we
no.
can get back to work.
I mean, now. I mean, anything can kind of. I think. I mean, you can look it up, but I mean, it's like if you have high blood pressure, if you have like, it's kind of there's a whole list of things that
My buddy Stephen Costello got on the list because he belongs to a cigar club. And so he put
he's a
down
smoker.
on this registration that he's a smoker. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it's a cigar a week, but he's technically a smoker. And so he,
Right.
he got bumped up the list.
There you
I'm
go.
like, I'm not so sure that's legit, pal, but all right, good for you.
Well, there you go. So let's back up. How did you get involved in music? To begin with, I think it's always interesting, especially talking to my male cohorts. Everyone talks about how there's such gender parity sort of in the industry with the number of like females or people who identify as female singers versus those that are. It's always looking at it from the
Yeah,
university level. We are desperate, especially to get low voice males.
right.
Just to audition, just to come in,
I'll give
and
you a great
so
example. When I started, I was on the basketball team, and I had a terrible knee injury and had to have a partial replacement, and so that was the end of my high school basketball career.
there you go,
And a very cute girl said, "Hey, why don't you join the drama club? We need guys."
there you go.
And so I followed her right as quickly as I could and got in there, and there were 75 girls and 3 guys, and those numbers made sense to me.
And then you were like, are there any other extracurricular organizations that have these sort of numbers?
But then I immediately got a part, even though I wasn't nearly as talented as most of those girls.
Right.
And that's just talking to your point that even there was such a desperation to have a male in the group that I was immediately the star.
Wow.
And that's where the bug was bit. Like I
This was
was
junior high or what?
this was high school, yeah. And
High
I
school.
was
Oh, high
I
school.
had been in like the church choir when I was a kid, and I had played instruments, so music was in my life, but I had no intention of singing on a stage like that. That never occurred to me. And suddenly uh it just happened. I did it, and then um everything took off from there. I was so addicted to that sort of the atmosphere of building a show.
Yeah.
I was completely addicted to it, and never wanted to let it go. It was music theater then, but by the time I got to college, I went to the music department and I said, I'd love to have some voice lessons. And they were like, well, we teach classical music here. And I was like, all right, let's try that. It was that
So wait, in
dumb,
high
really.
school, were you in choir or you were just in
Yeah,
drama?
no, I was in choir and that yeah, but
And what?
you're one of a group. It wasn't like standing out. You were just sort of
Right, right. But what voice category did you sing in high school?
I was in the baritone section.
Baritone. Okay. So, I
Yeah.
mean, did they have it split up like, did they have
It
bass
was
one
just
and bass two?
SATB. It was just
Oh, it was just
SATB. That's
okay.
all we had. Yeah.
And where did
It
you
was
grow
not a
up?
big school. I grew up on Long Island.
Long Island. Okay, so it was a smaller school, but they did have a high school choral program. And
Yeah.
did that experience sort of initiate a desire to go to school to study music, or where did you go to undergrad, and what were you what was that link between high school and college?
Just from having been in the musicals in college, I mean in high school rather, I knew that I wanted to stay in that realm. I
Hmm.
wanted to be a part of the show. How do I stay in the show? The bug bit. I wanted to continue to be in the show. And so I just I went to a local state university in New York that was 15 minutes from my home. I didn't have any money to go to college away. Like that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't on my
Right.
radar. I didn't have
Right.
the grades or the money. And so I just went to a state school that was nearby and lived in my parents' house for those 4 years. And I because I didn't have to have the distractions of living on a campus, and I didn't have the need to work to do anything other than just go to school. I was completely focused on my goal. And after a year of undergrad, I knew completely that I wanted to be an opera singer. I knew it. I had been around them in that first year in college, and I thought, I need to do this. I need to be a part of this. And I could imitate them very quickly. I had a deep voice. I was not a
Hmm.
good singer, but I had a good voice, and I could project, and I was getting attention very quickly. And it was hard not to just keep walking towards that attention.
Yeah, sure.
And
When you say that you asked for voice lessons when you got to college, I mean, was that on the encouragement of friends that you had made, or was that just sort of like, okay, how?
I said, all right, I guess I'm going to be a music major. I had played in the band.
Oh, okay.
I had sung in the choir. I was in the shows. And so I thought, these are my people. This is my group.
Yeah,
There's at some point in your life where you realize what group you belong to.
sure.
And this was clearly my group. And so I knew I knew that I got attention singing, and I wanted to figure out a way to continue that.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was I had no aspirations of being a Broadway singer or some pop singer. Like I didn't, but I could see a path towards a classical singer that was possible. And I had half a semester of lessons with a grad student, and then he said, I think you should study with my teacher, who was Richard Cross.
Oh,
And
there you
so
go.
by halfway through my freshman year, I was studying with Richard Cross, who's been my only teacher, 25 years now.
Wow.
I've never stepped foot in another voice studio, and I just started working with him. I didn't know anything. He was starting with such a raw person and instrument. I had no classical training. I barely had musical language in my life,
Right.
and so we were really starting with square one. I had five notes that sounded really good, and
What do you
and
remember which notes
we
those
just
were?
kept, yeah, yeah, like G to C.
Yeah, yeah,
That was it.
sure.
And sorry, can we? I'm sorry, I need to stop. Somebody keeps ringing my phone, and I have to stop it.
It's all right. It's fine. It's fine.
Forgive me.
That's okay.
So I had five serviceable notes, and he G to C, really just G to C, and those were high quality. They were manageable. They could be done in public, and so we just kept stretching either side, and the bottom figured out very quickly. Quickly, I had an octave going low, and then over 8 years, I got myself above the staff.
So you started working with Richard Cross your sophomore year of undergrad,
Yeah, halfway through my freshman year. Yeah,
halfway through your freshman year. Okay.
yeah.
And so, do you remember what some of those initial? I mean, you hadn't ever had formal private voice lessons up until that point, except for the
Never.
the grad student kid
Yeah,
that was the
I
first
had never
semester.
had a voice lesson before. No.
So, do you remember like some of the things that were like, oh, well, that's different. That's weird. That's what were some of the things that were sort of surprises to you when you started working with him initially?
I remember early on that I constantly had a checklist of things that I was needing to think about. And it wasn't easy for me. It didn't come quick. Uh, you know, I was constantly pulling my head back.
Mm,
I was constantly raising a shoulder. I was constantly breathing high. I wasn't breathing low. There were a million bad habits that really just had to be ironed out. But I was so raw that I could fix things fairly quick.
right,
Probably he would
right.
have appreciated it going quicker, but um, I just didn't know anything. I had no basis, and so much of it was breathing and placement and breathing and placement and breathing and placement. And he didn't let me sing anything but Schubert songs for years,
Oh wow,
4 years. And when he said, when you can do some of these Schubert songs to my liking, we can move on to something else, but you are not there yet.
wow, that's awesome.
And so, I didn't have the chance to kind of ruin opera arias like so many people do
Oh, yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
by trying by trying to get through them when I was a kid. And he really knew what I wanted to do because, one of his biggest things that he had me do was listen to recordings, and he gave me recordings, and he told me which ones to go listen to. And he said, you need to spend as many hours as you can in the music library just listening, and I'll give you the list of guys to go listen to. And then and they weren't always basses, and they weren't always baritones. He wanted me to listen to for style. I didn't know where to begin with style. I didn't understand the time periods of music and how you're going to sing Handel different than you're going to sing Puccini, and you're going to sing Verdi different than you're going to sing Wagner. I just didn't know any of that stuff.
Who were some of
And
those
so
singers that were initially on that list?
right away he said, don't listen to this person, listen to CAP. I wanted to listen to the more modern recordings because audibly it was more palatable to me.
Sure.
And I had a hard time with the quality of the early recordings, but he insisted on CAP as much as I could. Listen to that line, listen how he connects the vowels, listen how he gets from point A to point B, listen where he backs up, listen to where he goes couple or comes off the voice completely for dramatic effect. He wanted me to
Yeah.
The individuality of CAP was that you knew who was singing in three notes.
Right.
And I think even then he knew that this market is so flooded with singers that the only chance you really have is to stand out. You have to stand out, and
Right.
to be a recognizable voice within three notes should be your goal. You may not get there, but it should be your goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I became addicted to the recordings. I listened to them endlessly. I wanted it. I was like hungry for it.
Yeah.
And so I moved on from CAP to Nikolai Gurov. And then you can't avoid, as a young bass, you can't avoid Sam Raimi recordings because they were endless.
Right.
And as my voice got a little bit higher, the top of my voice got more interesting than the bottom. I moved into the bass baritones, Norman Traegle, Bryn Terfel. I'm sure I listened to everything Bryn Terfel ever recorded. And I don't have that kind of like light, floaty thing that he can do so brilliantly. But the heft of his voice, the placement of the bulk of his instrument was very similar to what I thought I did.
Yeah.
And I started to appreciate the bass baritones more just because it's what I heard myself more.
That had to have been somewhat frustrating, hearing all this great repertoire from all these great singers and being like, well,
It wouldn't let me touch it.
Here's my Schubert. Nothing that,
But it was
not that there's
motivation.
anything wrong with Schubert. Schubert's great, but
No, but he was dangling it.
yeah.
You need to get through half of Winterreise before I let you sing even Mozart. I mean, he was pedantic about it, and rightfully so. I was 18. It wasn't time to go jump into Verdi arias. And
well, but then again,
but I
Winterreise is
wanted
no walk in
it.
the
I
park.
pestered him about it. But what's that?
No, I was just saying, Winterreise is no walk in the park.
No walk in the park, but you have to sing clean, and
That's right.
you can't exactly hurt yourself if you're doing it correctly, and much like Mozart, and that it's healthy singing. Whereas if I locked into some Verdi aria, I was going to, like you said before, sing in the red. And
yeah.
and
We want to stay away from the red.
Corner you can't get out of.
We want to stay away from the red. We probably want to stay away from the yellow. Keep it mostly in the green. But
yeah,
it's there are certain arias and certain roles that tend to inspire that more than others. Surely.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So, other than sort of the physicalization, tilting the head back, letting the shoulder rise, breathing high, what were some of the? Do you remember maybe one of the first big light bulb moments when you were like, oh, okay, yeah, that.
My
totally makes
teacher
sense.
was not a pedagogue. He didn't speak. He didn't speak in those technical terms of this, that, and the other thing. He would talk about keeping your larynx low, but he didn't get into. He was a visualizer. He would. That appealed to me because that's the way I could hear things best. If he started talking about physiological things, I think my eyes would have rolled back in my head.
Yeah.
But I remember trying to sing a D once, and the approach was a fifth, and crash and burn didn't go good. And he took a book, and he says, "This is what you're doing," and he threw it at a shelf that was up high on the wall. He threw it up like this, And
That's brilliant. Like you're just.
It bounced off the shelf, hit the floor. He says, "That's what you just did. This is what I would like you to do." And he took the book and he went over the top and he placed it down. And just that simple visualization in my head, I could then do it.
Wow.
And I think we matched up because he wasn't a technical speaker and I was not, and continue to not be a technical guy.
Right.
And so it was just a visualizer. This is where that is. And if he was talking about breath, he would say, your breath is a fountain of water, and your voice is a little ball that's being suspended on this run. And I've kept that visual, the visual aid of that in my head my whole life. And you go, that's your support. The water is your breath, and your voice is just floating right on top of that. And that, where the pressure is in your breath and the pressure is not on your voice. And that's the way he spoke, and I responded to it. I think we were just the perfect matchup.
That's amazing.
No two of his students sounded alike.
Right.
He wasn't like one of these teachers where every student has that same sound or that same exact technique. He let people develop. He kept me in a base, he kept me in a ground, he kept me in the right foundation, and then just let it grow over time. There was no rush. We had no agenda. He told me it would take 10 years, and he was about right.
Wow. So you worked with him when you were at, was this a SUNY school?
Yeah, it was a Stony Brook University
Stony Brook.
on Long Island. Yeah.
And then, I mean, he and his wife, of course, were did they start that program at Yale?
They didn't start it, but they certainly made it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Richard and Doris, I mean, is that where you went to graduate school?
Yeah, he told me as I after I got through 4 years of school, and we had put an audition package together for graduate school. He told me, he said, "There's no room for you at Yale, so don't ask me to do that for you."
There's no room for you.
And so I took the top 5 schools in the country, and I sent them my cassette, and
Right.
I went and did my auditions, and I got into all of them.
Wow.
and and I got into them with scholarships. And so I went I went right back to him, and I said, so I wanted him to be proud. I went and told him, look what I did, look what I did. Can you believe it? And I wanted to celebrate.
Yeah.
And then he says, there's still no room for you at Yale, but will you come up to Yale and sing for Doris? I said, so you just want me to come up and do this? There's no room. He's like, yes, just come up.
Okay.
And so I went up and I sang for her in their space, and suddenly there was room.
Suddenly, we have a space available for a.
Yeah, but then there were 3 basses there the next year, which technically was unavailable. There was only 12 singers in that program, and
Right.
they didn't need 3 basses, but they made an exception that year, which
Wow.
obviously I appreciated. I wanted to stay with him. I wasn't going to be able to study with him at any of these other schools,
Right.
and
Right.
so
Right.
I didn't. I'm a very not just loyal person, but if it's working, I don't mess with it.
Yeah.
And he and I had done something in 4 years. We went from a novice singer to a full scholarship, graduate student, and to conservatories, to Juilliard and New England Conservatory and stuff.
Right. Right.
And so I thought, this is working. I need to stay with the guy. I wanted to stay with him, and it worked out that they said, you can come on up here.
That's pretty impressive. So, excuse me. When you mentioned I mean you started as a bass, and your voice grew higher. Um, During that sort of graduate school time, I mean, did you ever play around with baritone rap, or did you know that you were a bass baritone? How did that feel like? Like, did you have to do anything different than what you were doing before in order to have a bit more freedom in the top of your voice? I mean, visualization wise or technical wise, or what is it that you?
It
What was
developed
it that you
very
told them?
naturally. It
Mm,
developed. I had a low F, and so they said, you're a bass.
mm,
You can sing Zarastro. You can sing. It was all these low bass rolls, and I thought that was my fach. I thought that's what I was going to be doing, and so I sang
yeah.
all of that low stuff, and it was it. Um, you know, Suddenly there was an aria that had an E flat in the top, and so this was a difficult note for me. I sort of topped out at a D. I
Mm,
was a low F to D, and suddenly we just kept working on this and working on it, and we talked more and more about moving into the top portion, and it clicked probably my first year in graduate school that suddenly the E flat, I crossed over, and I crossed into the E flat, and then E natural and F happened very quickly after that. My problem was that E flat, and that was my transition. And everybody's got a different transition through their passaggio. No two people are exactly alike,
right.
and depending on vowels and depending on a lot of things. But that was my transition note, and once I figured out that transition note, the next 2 notes were much easier.
What do you remember?
And
What it was that you had to figure out about the E flat that opened up the rest of it?
it was allowing myself. It was letting go of fear was probably the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want it to be ugly. I had a very low and rich voice, and I was proud of it, and I felt that this is what I was going to do. I was going to be the low bass guy. And they said, well, I was trying to sing Collines aria, which has just an E flat. You know, it's no big deal, but it is approached from a breath, and so you had to place it. You couldn't throw the book up there, you know.
Right, right. You had to
And
gently set the book on the
it
shelf.
was, yeah, and you know, if in the vein of the visualization of how he spoke to me, he just said, "Sing it through the top of your head." That's all he said. He said, "It's not here. It's not here. It's this way."
Mm.
You know, it
What's the
was that simple.
word on that part? Da, 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 da.
Pasar,
Pasa.
paspa.
So on an
Yeah,
ah vowel too.
yeah. It was a golden thing to say. He said, "Sing it through the top of your head. Send it that way."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I had locked into this different part of my voice. Okay, but that didn't mean it matched the rest.
Right.
Okay, then you have to smooth out those notes leading up to that so that it sounds seamless. You know, that's the trick, right? It's to sound seamless from your whole way through.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing here. And so it just took time. I don't remember ever just having like a click, like, you know, that might have been a click moment, but that didn't mean it was done by any
No,
stretch.
yeah. I mean but that opens the door to where it's like a
It opened the door.
possibility.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And
know.
then I found an E natural, an F, and an F sharp, and even a G to be much easier than that E flat. I still don't like it. I still don't like to sit on it. I'm happy to pass by it. I'm happy to pass through it, but I don't like to sit on it, even today.
Yeah.
I'd much rather sing an F.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I have the same thoughts about E natural. E natural is
Yeah,
my
yeah, same,
least
right, right.
favorite note. I just
There doesn't seem to be a good vowel. That doesn't seem to be a good way to, you know, just to sit
well,
on it, especially if I have to hold it out. It costs a lot still.
and I think one of the things that we as singers have to learn how to do is be able to sing with ease, not only from top to bottom and let it sound seamless, but any vowel, right? Any
Yeah,
vowel on any note, because that's what we do.
yeah.
And
Or it's what separates the good from the great.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you sometimes hear some singers above the staff, not to name names, but some sopranos that it's like, what was that
They
word?
get away with murder, don't they? Don't they get away with murder? I swear to God, my whole life is one long diction note. And I go, you don't even talk to her over there. She's been singing ah for 3 months.
It's true. It's true. It's true, man. Yeah, but I hear you. So now, I mean, you get into graduate school, you're at Yale, you're working. Um, what was the next step for you? You'd put together an audition package to go to graduate school, but now you're into that. I mean, I guess your audition package for grad school was already into that bass baritone Fach, yeah.
Yeah, I had put in Figaro, stuff like that. I had just like you know, just an inch higher, you know,
Right,
and saying bass baritone opens up the possibilities to a much broader range.
right,
Um, I don't like low bass rep. I wasn't a Osmin. I wasn't a Zoroastro. That wasn't for me.
right.
And the repertoire that was a little bit higher, where I could sing Four Villains or Mephistopheles or Mephistophele, that was very attractive to me, and I could see that my action.
Yeah. You there?
Yeah, and so that's where I wanted to go with it.
So as you worked through grad school and then did you do? I mean, we met at Santa Fe Opera, didn't we?
I never went. I was never a young artist in Santa Fe, but my wife was there, and I think
Oh,
that's where
okay,
we met.
okay, okay, okay.
Was that 2001?
2000. Wait, either 2000. I was there twice. I was there in 2000 and I was there in 2002. So I'm not sure which year it would have been, but
We were in the same audition realm. We were always finding each other at the competitions
that's right.
and singing for Ohio Light and Virginia Opera. We were always in the same back room at City Opera.
That's right. That's right. I look back on those days, and I mean, of course, people explain it far better than I. But the amount of stress, anxiety, and sweat that filled those halls of NOLA and at Riverside Church and all those different
You had
places.
to have a thick skin, man.
Man, I mean, people, and then there'd be those people, that are standing there, that would just always want to just be like, what are you singing? What are you, it's like sizing each other
Or
up.
worse, like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, right. What do you bench? What do you bench these days?
There was a lot of dick swinging back then, and I think it was worse for the girls.
Yo, I'm sure it was because, like we were
Yeah.
saying, I mean, there's just a lot more for a lot fewer spaces, I think,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, it's I
But that's just the reality of it. I'm not sure that something can be fixed.
yeah, no, I know. I hear some echoing, and I don't know
Me
if
too, actually. I'm
I'm
trying
not
to.
sure if do you have on your
How's that? Do you
Zoom?
still
Do
hear
you
it?
have the original sound
What's that?
on your? Oh, that now it's better. Whatever happened?
Better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I think
good.
we're
Yeah.
good. So yeah, I do think that
Those were hard days, and you had to have a thick skin, and I don't miss them.
what was your go-to arias back in those days?
I had figured out a way to guarantee what they would pick second. And so I would sing Come dal ciel precipita from
Macbeth.
Macbeth, Banquo's
Yeah.
aria from Macbeth, and they would always ask for Non più andrai from Le Nozze di Figaro, 99 times out of 100.
Wow.
To the point where I never even looked at the other arias on my list. I could do them, but it never happened. It just never happened. And so
Wow.
I was lucky. I didn't have to do a ton of auditions because I got into the Chicago Lyric Young Artist Program.
Right.
They call it the Ryan Opera Center now. At the time, it was called LOCA.
Yeah.
And you know, I got into that, and so I didn't have to immediately go back into those gigantic auditions because that was a brutal environment.
Yeah. My one misstep in my career was that I never did one of those main programs.
Yeah,
I was at the Juilliard Opera Center,
you were a
and
JOC guy.
yeah, I was at JOC, and at the end of my first year, I ended up signing with Cami, and
Mm-hmm.
so I remember having a conversation with them, like, do you think I should sing for like Loca or for like Lindemann or for
Houston, or yeah,
Houston or something? And they were like, no, no, we think we've talked about it. We think we're just going to set you up for all the auditions. And
you sounded like you back then. You had that big. I don't know if anybody would have called you a Verdi baritone at 25 years old, but
no,
we knew it was going there. We knew you were going to sing a million Germans. Like we could hear it. You had that quality, but you
yeah,
were already singing like the Lucia. Like you had that.
yeah.
You seemed like you were way further than a lot of us. And so when you didn't do that kind of thing, it sort of made sense.
Yeah, sort of, except for the fact that I never had a home company to be like, oh, why don't you let's contract him
Yeah,
to sing this role and this role and this role, and then
yeah,
of course for the other tier companies at that level to be like, oh, well, if he's doing that there, then let's bring him here,
right.
and that
Oh
that
yeah,
was that was sort of my
that was a huge part of it. Lyric has taken care of me for almost 20 years now.
well, I mean, those
I've
companies tend to take care of their own. I mean, you really see the alumni from the Houston studio, or the Loca, or the Ryan Center,
yeah,
Lindemann. There's
different. It's
it's
different. Yeah,
it's different because you get a lot of opportunities when you're actually there on stage. But
yeah,
it's been, for me personally, just sort of one of the challenges to break into that tier, singing the same rep, for like, okay, if Lyric Opera Chicago is going to do something, and it's between me and Quinn. Well, Quinn was the alumni from the thing, and he's great. And so why
yeah. No, I know what you mean.
it's been a little bit of a frustration, but
I've done 100 performances at Lyric Opera of Chicago, over 100 in
wow,
17 roles. And
wow,
it started with the King and Aida, and the last two things I've done is Louisa Miller and Mephistopheles. It's been an incredible progression there, and I
yeah,
continue to go back, and I've survived administration changeovers. I've survived music director changeovers. That I never really thought about home company in that way. I thought of it as, yes, they gave me all my first chances, but I didn't realize that the way you just put it, other large companies trust you once you've done it in that realm.
they really do.
That could have only happened from being a young artist there. I would never have sung any of those roles in the first 7 or 8 years had I not been an alumni.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it really is an incredible opportunity for those who what is the I highly recommend, that it's not the Grey Poupon, but it's the I can't remember the commercial. It's like, I highly recommend it. Yes. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, yeah, it's a different path, you know. Not that I regret any experience that I've had. I actually feel like, you know,
Of
oftentimes,
course.
I mean, look, now I have had the opportunity to work in a lot of those houses, and
Yeah.
the paychecks you cannot complain about. Those are the, you know, when you're singing in a house with a larger budget and, you know, the level of production and so forth. But oftentimes, you know, one of the unique things about my career is that I do occasionally have the opportunity to sing, you know, in a company that is certainly respectable, but on a smaller scale, you know,
Yeah.
and it's always like such a, I mean, I don't want to say a surprise in a bad way, but it's just like to hear the level of artistry on, well, not even just here, but to see the level of artistry across the board that's happening in places like New Orleans or like Portland
Yeah.
or Atlanta or,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
I mean, there are companies that are not those top shelf
Yeah.
places that are producing incredible stuff that is
Oh,
just like,
it's a testament to the training of the American singer.
it's true.
You know, I did 2 years on a fest contract in Munich,
Oh yeah.
and it was painted to me um, by music staff there. They said, "We love American singers. We love American singers. They have some of the best voices. Their voices are done. They're not always the best singers. They're not always the best performers. They lack a confidence that exists more in Europe because in the university system, you are surrounded by people telling you what you're doing wrong,
Yeah, it's
and
true.
that basically never stops.
Right.
I'm still surrounded by people telling me what I'm doing wrong, and so as Americans, we go in like, is this okay? Am I doing okay? Is this
Right.
okay?
Right.
But we were trained to the hill. I when I got to Munich, there was a group of older men who were doing these fest contracts. There weren't that many young guys, just a few others. The Americans dominated this group. They
Wow.
gave us all the responsibilities, and there was a bass. You know, Stephen Humes. He had been there for years, and he did everything there. I mean, tons of huge repertoire there. They trusted us more than anyone. The training of a singer in America far surpasses anywhere else.
What would you say? I mean, do you mean technical training? Do you mean languages? Do you mean all of it? Like what are some of the things that
No,
you've seen
certainly not
firsthand?
languages. That's where we're failed as a as a people. But you know, because over here my colleagues speak 5 perfect languages, and their English is pristine and could talk ancient philosophy with you in a second or third language. Where my French is great for ordering dinner and
Right.
great for asking the director, "Do I go this way or this way?" But
Right.
I'm never going to get into an in-depth conversation in French. It's never going
Yeah.
to. My whole life through, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Because we don't instill languages into kids in America. You can't pick it up when you're 16 or 26 or 36. It's, you know,
It's a bit
if you
more of a
start it when
challenge.
you're 2, you have a chance.
Yeah. So what is it that they're talking about when they say that American singers are so that they love them so much?
They are trained to sing in the house. They are trained to project. The voices don't have holes in them.
Mm,
The technical teaching that goes on in America is far superior to anywhere else.
wow.
We make more singers than anywhere else.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's good to know, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you on the language front. You know, it's interesting. I have a daughter. I mean, you have a kid too. You know, it's like if you were to purposefully want them to learn a second language, you have to go really far out of your way to enroll them into like, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like it's not just a thing like, oh yeah, sure, we offer these languages at this school. It's like, I mean, there's a little bit of Spanish that we get into down here that's naturally, you
Sure, of
know,
course.
incorporated. But yeah, it's. I wish that there was something more immersive that they could be a
It's
part
just, you
of.
know, English is the language of the world, and so it's not
Yeah,
necessary. But if you're born in Germany, English is you're learning English in grade school,
kindergarten.
when you're
Yeah,
kindergarten,
yeah,
and their English is flawless. If they want to work in the business world, they have to speak English. You can't find a physician in Europe that doesn't speak pristine English. Pristine.
wow,
It's just not the case. It's like the lingua franca of the time, you know, and like
right,
it's English now. Maybe 300 years from now, it's Chinese, and you're gonna have to learn Chinese if you want to survive in the world. Like it's hard to know.
yeah, yeah.
We're fortunate in that it just happens to be our language, and everybody can cater to us. But you end up feeling like a dumbass over here.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I haven't spent
My German,
too
I
much
lived
time
two
over there,
years
but
in I lived 2 years in Munich, and my German is basically German with marbles in your mouth. So even when I get up north, they go, "Oh, German's awful," but at least I can speak German.
wait, is that you broke up just a little bit. You were saying that you lived 2 years in Munich and your German
It's
is what?
Bayerisch. It's southern German. It's not Hochdeutsch, and
Oh, right,
so
right, right.
it basically sounds like German with marbles in your mouth.
Aha, got it, got it. That's great. Yeah, because what we learn in German diction, at least in conservatory and graduate school and so forth, is Hochdeutsch. But
Of
yeah,
course, yeah.
if you're spending your time in conversation in the southern part of Germany, yeah, I can see how
It's a
that
whole
would be.
different. It's like being in the South in America. You're like, what are they saying?
Right, 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 right. Yeah.
I don't mean Texas, of course.
No, 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 no. Of
I
course
mean
not.
Arkansas, Mississippi.
Well, there's certainly places I mean, that's what I always get right. You don't sound like you're from Texas. I'm like, well,
No, you
I do.
definitely do.
I do. You definitely do. Fuck you. That's okay. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it.
Please, I love Texas.
Yeah, well, some good stuff here, right? So as you got into, well, let's say this: when did you sort of start to realize what what your rep was really going to be? And would you say that like you have, 5 or 6 roles, or do you say you have like a dozen roles, or how do you see your sort of, I mean, I hate to say brand, but I mean like,
Yeah.
what is sort of the category?
For now, I'm very happy singing the bad guys, all the devils, the Mephistos, the Mephistopheles, the four villains, Nick Shadow.
Yeah.
This is a lot of what I do. I do have some Don Giovanni's. I have some Figaro still on the books. Plenty of Mozart still there. I'm very comfortable in the French repertoire. I'm very comfortable in early Verdi.
Mhm.
The later Verdi stuff, the bass got a little bit lower for my taste, but the early Verdi stuff works well. Nabucco, that
Well,
sort of
yeah,
thing, and that we did together 5-6
that's
years
right.
ago.
That's right.
And uh, that's where I'm happily staying for as long as I can. I have been offered German repertoire. I've been offered Votons and things like this, and I stay away from it for as long as I can. I feel like once you sort of step in that realm, you can't get out of it. And I'm very happy singing French repertoire and Verdi for
That's
now.
a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, what are I mean, do you see yourself eventually going down that route? I mean, when you look ahead to the future, is there some repertoire that you're excited to eventually get into?
I want to sing King Philip for 10 years
There
in
you
Don
go.
Carlo.
Have you had
Uh,
the chance to sing Philip yet?
I've been offered twice that I couldn't do. So we're getting there. We're getting closer.
You know what? You and me both. I've been offered Rodrigo 3 times,
Can't do
and
it, right?
they changed the rep. They
Yeah, yeah,
canceled
yeah. It
this.
gets
They hit.
canceled. Global pandemic.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's put it out there. You're going to be Philip. I'm going to be Rodrigo.
I'm in. I'll sign
Yeah.
that today.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Man, that's such a great show. Well, you now look, I understand that you say, you're not a technician, you're not from that family, but do you ever have the opportunity to work with young singers? Um, do you do master classes? Do you do that kind of thing?
I certainly have, and I'm asked all the time. Everywhere you go, you're going to get 3 guys out of the course that want to have voice lessons,
Right, right, right.
and I treat it like Fight Club. You got to
Oh
ask
wait,
three
I heard
times.
you say this. I heard you say this to somebody. Yeah.
You
Keep
gotta
sorry, keep
you
going.
gotta ask 3 times, because I can't deal with somebody who doesn't take it as dead serious as I do.
That's a good point.
It's a waste of my time, and it's a waste of their time. And
Yeah.
it's not that I'm not willing to tell you what I know. I am willing, but I have to believe that you'll die trying,
Right.
because that's the way I was. And I can't casually do this. It bothers me. It irks me. I have done master classes. It's fine. It's kind of a show. I don't know that I'm reinventing the wheel. The kids are often bringing their best thing they've ever done, and there's not a ton of chance to fix it, or we could fake fix it and pretend like we did something great, but I'm not.
Well, that's the thing.
It's
It's like, they try to get the biggest bang for their buck, and
Sure,
it's
I get
if
it, because
the
there's an
master
audience. I
class
get
is
it.
90 minutes long, they want to fill. Okay, we got 6 singers for you to work. You're like, What? 90 minutes. Let's do two people. Maybe we'll do something.
Yeah, right. Two and one alternate.
Exactly. But yeah, it's kind of crazy
Yeah.
when they expect you to be able to work with a singer for 15 minutes and just blow
It's a
away the
show.
mind.
It's a show in a way. A,
It
a
really is.
private a private master class of just singers is more appealing to me than the public class.
Right.
And
Oh,
I did go back to my undergrad and did a big public master class, and boy, everybody seemed to love it, but I don't know that I helped anybody. It was just kind of a show.
right, right. Did you ever, so, I mean, looking backwards, did you ever do one of those public master classes with some famous singer?
Tons,
Oh, did
tons.
you do a lot? I see. I only
Oh,
I only did like two or three, but
Marilyn Horne, Renato
yeah,
Scotto, Cheryl Mills,
I
Frank
remember.
Lapardo.
Oh, Frank Laporta, yeah, sure.
I did it. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't even think I volunteered. I think they were just like, Christian will do it. He'll do it. Like, I would. A lot of people shied away from that stuff, but
I remember the first one that I ever did was Marilyn Horne when I was at
did she
Juilliard.
like you?
She did, and
Yeah,
I was very fortunate that she invited me to come on the roster, and so I was
I've
on the
seen her
Marilyn
not
Horne.
like people, and it was rough.
Yes, I remember that specifically.
I'm like,
There
I'm
was a,
pretty sure that guy just retired.
there, there was a baritone, a very good baritone, who sang before me, and she was convinced he was a tenor. And
Oh,
I mean, in front of God and everyone, she told this guy that he was a tenor, and he was not having it. And he was like, "No, I'm not. I can
yeah.
sing a low." She's like, "Honey, I don't care what note you can sing. I think you're a tenor." Like she just wouldn't let it go. But yeah, but that was the first moment where I really started to see like every single person in this audience is here for her. Like
Yeah, of
they, you,
course.
you know, it really is a show where it's like
It's a
an
show.
opportunity, and then of course you're nervous as the singer to sing for these great stars or whatever.
Oh,
And
I remember being terrified singing for Marilyn Horne. She was on every recording I ever loved.
right, right,
I
right,
was like, oh my God, the queen is in the room. She's right over there, and she's little. She's short, and I'm like a giant.
right.
And she
But
liked
she's
me.
there
She was
behind the
sweet on
desk
me.
taking notes and just like waiting for you
Yeah,
to. And I
but
was
she was
so
sweet on me.
nervous.
She liked me. I don't know if I charmed her or what, but maybe it was my last name. I'm not sure what it was, but
Yeah, maybe.
it went well, and
Yeah.
so I got out of it. But I remember just buckets of sweat.
It really, those things are so nerve-wracking and painful. And but yeah,
But we all had to do it.
yeah.
It's a
We,
rite of passage. If you didn't have a master class with Cheryl Mills, you're not in this business.
what's funny? I never had a chance to
You never
sing for
saw him?
him. I
Oh, I think I did 3.
did you really? Well, I'll
Sure.
take one of those.
He
It's
puts
funny.
on a show, man. Let me tell you, he puts on a show.
I can only imagine. I can
He
only
would
imagine.
demonstrate too. He would sing. He would lock into the passage, especially if he was working with a baritone, and he'd be like, "No, do it like this," and he would just roar, and the place would, for 5 notes, the place would go ape shit. They couldn't
Right?
believe they just heard Cheryl Mills sing for 5 seconds.
That's incredible. Yeah, he I mean, talk about a singer that, of every recording that I was obsessed with. I
Of
mean,
course,
that was
please,
the guy for me. I mean, I
because we
remember
could hear him sing A flats and A
C
naturals, and we were
flats.
like,
C
"Whoa,
flats. Dude, the end of the Rigoletto recording with
yeah, I
him
know."
and
It's
Pav.
not. He's got it. It's not great.
Well, listen, there is a C flat that happens in that "Ah la maledizione," and it's
Yeah,
just
I
like,
know.
oh
And
my
it was
God.
incredible. What an incredible instrument.
Yeah, yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, well, let's say this. Whatever you're doing pretty well, pretty
No, I
good at doing the
appreciate
old
you, brother.
singing thing, man. And it's such a thrill to see people who I care about finding success. I'm so
Oh,
glad that
thanks,
you're able
bro.
to be out there doing it right now. Just know that you
I
have
know that
all
I'm
of
lucky.
this.
It's not lost on me that I'm working right now, and that most people are not. I'm humbled by this.
Yeah,
Uh, I feel like I won the lottery in a way that I can work right now. And we're not going to sing for people. This is just being done for a capture. But I'm here doing what we do,
yeah,
and I'm being
yeah.
paid. And I'll tell you, I'm very grateful.
Well, and we all know that sometimes the best performances are those that happen in the rehearsal room, and you're like, God, I wish somebody could have seen that.
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of those moments because we all realize we're not going to sing for an audience, and so we're performing every day.
Yeah,
We're getting our fix now.
that's kind of amazing. I mean, it's like trying things and not, I don't know. It's like, I mean, granted, we talk a lot about that energy between either side of the stage, the house giving the energy to the stage,
Right.
and likewise. But there is something that's a bit more intimate and a bit more private, and perhaps allows those sort of rules, or you know
Yeah.
um, limitations to be sort of shut down, when it's like, okay, we can just do this, and like you said, let it be
I'll
captured, let
tell
it
you,
be.
I have felt a lot more freedom from the singers here. They are willing to try stuff. They're willing to risk things because it all disappeared pretty quick, And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there's an element of fuck it. Why wait around to be great? Let's do it right now. It's addicting too. You jump
I,
in, and the
you know
and the
what, that's
level
the
gets
motto.
raised.
I'm gonna use that as the motto going into next week.
Fuck it.
Why wait around to be great? Fuck it, let's go now. It's amazing.
Cheryl Mills said that to me. He said, "You need to practice being great. Don't just practice this music. You need to practice performing. You need to practice being great." Uh, he was right. That's
Isn't that amazing?
you're not going to suddenly be great on performance day. You need to be great now.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I found myself talking. I'm teaching doing an opera scenes class at UMKC, where we're doing everything online, but we're focusing on the Mozart da Ponte operas, and we're doing a few scenes from the Figaro and from Così and from Giovanni, and as we're into this, we start talking about all kinds of stuff, and start talking about auditioning. And actually, Sandra Pixetti is guest teaching with
Sandy.
me. Sandy, she's such a great human. She asked me, she was like, yeah, is there, would you have any opportunity for me to be involved in whatever you're doing? I'm like,
Oh, how sweet.
absolutely. And
Please.
her energy has been so wonderful for these kids. And
That's great.
so sometimes they'll just ask us questions about the business or whatever. And to your point, I'm like, you guys, you've got to practice. Don't wait till the audition before you put on your audition suit, or before you
Don't
put on
wait.
the dress. Put on the shoes, put on the dress, do the hair, like practice in that method, in that mode, so that
Oh
it's
yeah.
not this weird foreign thing when you're trying to
That's
get
a
up and
great way
go,
to put it.
But yeah, practice being great if you expect to be great. Yeah, you might
Oh,
as
for
well.
sure. Yeah, if you have any chance of being great.
Might as well. Might as well. Well, dude, thanks so much for being with me.
My pleasure.
I
Anytime,
really
brother.
appreciate
Anytime,
it.
really. I miss you. It's good to see
I
you.
know, I know. I miss you too. It's really, really great to see you. I wish I could be there to see the show. I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal. That was my first gig I ever did. I was Wagner in Faust.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do
Pretty
you know the
thankless.
name? What's that?
Pretty thankless.
Pretty thankless. Yeah, pretty thankless. But you know what? I was a senior in undergrad. So I was like 21 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
And my teacher uh, asked me to send a tape do you know the name Fiora Contino?
I know the name. Yeah.
So she was this amazing sort of, conductor, musician, opera, I mean, she was running this company in Peoria, Illinois, called Opera Illinois. And uh, they were planning on doing this Faust, and he asked me to send in a tape, and she liked what she heard. And so it was such a cool opportunity to make my debut as
And you get a
Wagner.
moment, man. You get a
You do
moment.
get a moment. You do
Yeah.
get you get a chorus moment, and then you get the little
For a
rap
kid, that's a
song.
big moment.
You get a little dialogue with Valentin, and
You
the
get a dialogue with
Valentin
Mephisto.
and Mephisto. That's right. So the Valentin was my teacher. So my undergraduate voice teacher was singing
You got to
Valentin.
sing with your teacher.
I
What
got to
luck.
sing with my teacher. It's kind of
Oh
cool.
man, I would have loved that.
Yeah, yeah. Cornell McNeil's son, Walter McNeil, was the Faust.
No kidding.
Yeah, who had
I
an
mean, got to be a
amazing,
hero of yours.
dude, dude, unbelievable voice. That guy. I
Oh,
mean, there's always. Do you ever read The Great Singers and
that was
Great?
James Levine told me personally that was his favorite baritone of all time, Cornell
Wow,
McNeil. Yeah,
wow. I mean, it's incredible. I mean,
it was
what
an
an
incredible
amazing,
instrument.
amazing voice. And of course, I still remember him telling me all these stories about a kid growing up, just traveling with his father everywhere, and all the stories backstage in Italy and everything. And it's unbelievable. But yeah, Nova Thomas was the Marguerite.
Wow,
A Russian-based Mikhail Svetlov-Krutikov was the
you never
Mephisto.
forget the names of that first one, do you?
I know,
That
right? It's
stays
kind of
forever.
amazing. But
Yeah,
yeah, so every time, and now granted, I've sung Valentin once,
yeah.
but so I sang Wagner once, and I sang Valentin once. That's my claim to Faust.
No,
But
my
yeah,
first
well,
Mephisto was 20 years ago,
was it really?
and the maestro in our show here is Lorenzo Viotti, who is 29.
He
I'll remind him that I was singing Mephistopheles when he was 9.
Wow, I'm sure he really loves that.
I say, before you give me that note, I've been doing this since you were 9.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I hope you guys have a phenomenal run. I mean, are you doing a run of things
We're
or
going
you
to do
just
2 captures, and it's going to be put online for streaming, and then they're going to put it in the movie theaters at a later time.
cool, cool.
Yeah.
Well, have a blast and know that we're all supporting you and hope you have a great rest of your
Thanks, brother. Thanks for
evening
having
there
me. I
in
appreciate it.
Paris. All right, man. It's great to
Be
see you
well, bro.
again.
You too.
Take care.
Okay.